Guys, it seems like Plarium is losing control over the champions and the way they interact in Raid Shadow Legends, the way they deal damage based on specific things, and just generally how they interact across the board with the Hydra clan boss, with the clan boss, and what sort of crazy things you can achieve in game with things that should not be happening. So we're gonna go over quite a few different things. It seems like for the last 1 year or so, especially since the release of the Hydra Clash and since the release of some new champions, tons of crazy things can actually happen in the game. And there are a lot of bugs, a lot of things that are kind of like bypassing their coding team. And yeah, there are tons and tons of crazy things that seem to be out of control. Let me just quickly start with the newest thing. So Bronco recently made a video on a new thing with Ironclad and Acelin, the stalwart, the faction unity champion from the Bannerlords. And a big shout out to him. Make sure you guys head over and subscribe to the channel. Basically, guys, Acelin, for whoever is not familiar, let me just quickly walk you through it, just in case if you're not familiar with what he can do. He has this skill right here, heals all allies by the total value of all shields on all allies, which overall sounds pretty crazy. It means that if you have a disgusting shield, you're going to gain a massive, massive heal. Now, I'm not sure exactly who from the community gave the idea to Bronco. I forgot the name, but big shout out to that person as well. Basically, you have Ironclad, a rare champion. He deals damage based on the healing that he's getting, right? We've been doing tons of different things in the past with this champion. When healed, will attack all enemies inflicting damage proportional to any surplus heal. Damage inflicted is equal to 50% of any surplus heal. So just imagine having like a 2 billion heal. It's gonna deal 1 billion damage, okay? Which is absolutely insane. And that's exactly what is happening in here. So basically, he's growing the shield with Wixwell, right? Then at some point, he decides to basically break that shield with Acelin the Stalwart and heal all of the teams. So check this out. I'm quickly gonna scroll back just for a little bit. He is currently turn 128 at 40 million damage, and then you just have Ironclad dropping a 921 million damage, guys. Check this out again. Now, one thing that I thought was something happening in the game, that you have a coding where the maximum damage is at around 240 million or something like this, if I'm not mistaken. How you may notice, 921 million, 621k. Insane damage. Now, this, of course, is not really a bug, right? I cannot call this a bug because before this, we did not have a champion like Acelin the Stalwart that will just give a massive heal. So in order to fix this, if they're planning to, of course, they can just put a cap on his healing and job done. It's not a bug, right? Like, this is definitely not a bug because it works as described, right? Because there's no cap, he will be able to get that. Look at the healing that they just got in here. 2,147,000,000 healing, guys. That's because he grew the shield so much, okay? So that's actually a pretty interesting thing. Now, of course, this will open the door to do different things in the Hydra clan boss. So you can do pretty much the exact same thing in the Hydra clan boss, but you're gonna deal even more damage just for the simple fact that you're gonna have in the 6th champion that will bring in another shield. So you're gonna be able to stack up the shields. Probably you can do this twice in a round, and probably get to like 3+ billion damage. Now, the main thing why I kind of like want to point this out, and I think it's not a bug, and this team will not be as busted as any of the craziest teams that we have in the game. Ronda, for example, right? This, very similar with the Wixwell and Yannicka, will allow you to basically drop in 2-3 billion damage at its best. Probably if you are pushing it to crazier level, you might be able to squeeze in 4-5 billion damage. I definitely do not think that any of these teams will get you to 10, 20, 30 billion damage. Even the Yannicka and Wixwell, which has a lot of RNG, it could potentially, if all the planets in the universe align for you, they could basically bring you around 10 billion damage, but no more than that. So let me just quickly show you a couple of different things that I have in here. So again, make sure you guys subscribe to Bronco, guys. Go show him some love. this is definitely a pretty interesting idea. So big shout out to the person behind it. And let's actually quickly have a look at a different thing that was happening recently and why I'm saying that they are losing control over what these champions are doing. So we have Gallius. He was a new mythical champion that was added to the game recently. So with the counterattack, with the A1, it was dealing damage based on enemy max HP, which was basically doing 200 plus million damage per hit. Let me just quickly find one of the hits in here. Maybe we're gonna have one right at the beginning. Yeah, it should be right here. So the damage he was dealing here was busted, okay? This was a bug. You see, 247. But this is supposed to be the cap on the damage. So I'm very surprised to see Ironclad dealing 900 plus million damage. Maybe because it was not a critical hit. Maybe because it was working from a passive rather than a skill. But it's just basically how the coding works in the game. You have a cap on the damage that you can deal per hit, and this was 247 million. Now, I've done a run with this champion and was 5.5 billion damage in the clan boss, guys, which was absolutely disgusting. So they quickly fixed this one. They actually canceled the champion for a week or so. They've added him in the game only after. But in the past, we had many different champions that were doing crazy damage like this. So this, for example, is the Wixwell and Yannica team. If you guys did not have a chance to check it out, feel free to check it out. So basically, it works in a very similar way. Yannica has the A3 that will remove the shield from the enemies and will deal a percentage of the shield as damage, you know? So she can bring in a lot of damage. Now, the big problem with this team is that she has a very hard cap on the damage, where she can only deal like 300 plus million damage per head. But again, it has the exact same principles like the Acelin and Ironclad. You build up the shield for a long time, and then you just explode it and get massive damage. Now, once again, this is not a bug, okay? This is definitely not a bug, so I don't think they are planning to nerf this team at any time soon. I do want to kind of like quickly mention, we had recently a meeting with some of the people that work behind the Raid Shadow Legends and kind of like the people that are taking most of the decisions. And we do have Ronda that deals insane damage. This is the world record right now in the game, guys. Almost 100 billion damage. 91 on Nightmare to be more specific. You have Ronda dealing 81 billion damage. So they acknowledge that they need to do something about this because it's just not fair for one person to be able to drive an entire clan, right? And it sounds just perfect. Now, a lot of people will think that W Yumeko is the problem. Not at all. You can do different things, different teams with no Yumekos whatsoever and still get tens of billions of damage just with one Ronda. Now, you do need to have pretty good gear on her. She does need to be at 6-star. She doesn't need to be at +4 though. So that's the main thing. You can achieve disgusting results. So the state of the game right now, it clearly shows that it is out of control with all of these champions doing tons of crazy different things. How I mentioned, I really do not think that this was a bug, the Yannica and Wixwell. This is definitely not a bug. It works as intended. And the same with the Acelin and Ironclad. It does work as intended, but there is a problem here. This will definitely not stay in game. They will definitely need to add a cap on Acelin or something like that in order to fix it, even though I don't necessarily think that is a high priority, since these teams have a hard cap on the way they work. They require a lot of time to build up the shield in order to deal massive damage. When we had before the Corpulent Cadaver team, right? So this was another team that was dealing 34, I think the highest damage for Hydra Nightmare with the 6-star Crushing Row and Brogni, and Corpulent Cadaver was around 45 billion damage, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it went all the way up to 50. It's been a while since we've done it. But basically, this team was following the exact same principles. You build up the shield with Brogni, and then Corpulent Cadaver will be at a point where he just one-shots every single head in the Hydra clan boss on every single difficulty. Right there, the damage is not as high because we're still building up the shield. We're only on turn 34. Corpulent Cadaver can get to a point where he deals like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 million damage per head, even more, one-shotting everything in his path. Now, eventually, they completely killed this team. I know a lot of us asked for a bit of a rework on the team because it was just too OP. And in the end, Corporal Cadaver died as a rare champion. Unfortunately, he's not able to pull any crazy numbers like that. But this was something that, again, it proved the point that some of these champions are getting out of control. Now, the main thing right now that is out of control is Ronda. She's dealing double the damage of what Corporal Cadaver was doing before. So this is the world record on Nightmare Clan Boss with Ronda. This right here is the world record on Nightmare without Ronda. So you have 5 billion damage, and then you have 92 billion damage, okay? The difference is just mind-blowing. So, how I mentioned, they specify that they are well aware that they need to do something in order to kind of like bring the teams to their own level and don't have only one champion that dominates everything else in the game, because it's just not a good thing overall, you know. So this team right here, guys, is actually a pretty dope team. 5 billion damage, I think, is Fate from IPR, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong there. Garrel +4 6-star Crushing Grand, 2 billion damage. Toshiro, Crushing Grand 1.9, almost 2 billion damage as well. Now I feel like a team like this with double Toshiro, they can out-damage Garrel by quite a bit and probably do 6+ billion damage. Just because of how Toshiro interacts with the kit, with the leech and everything else, having two of them doing the same thing will actually benefit each other. You know, it's kind of like a good combo. So that could potentially take you all the way to 6 billion damage. But nothing can get you close to this. Now, I don't want Ronda completely killed off. I want Ronda to still be able to compete with a team like this, you know? To be able to put in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 billion damage is fine, you know? As long as other teams can get in that range. And she's not the mega dominator in the game. Now, I don't have Garrel, I don't have Toshiro on my account, so I'm not trying to kind of like say, Skratch, you have these mythicals, that's why you want Ronda sorted. Not at all, guys, okay? Then we have this team right here. I think this is from Setais, from my clan, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, not +4 Garrel. You don't have Toshiro at 6-star either, so that makes quite a bit of a difference, but it's still a pretty solid result, 4.1 billion damage. And if we drop the mythicals out of the equation here, this is Winston. This team is actually pretty solid. I've made a video on a similar team inspired from his team, actually. And we have Val the Destroyer doing pretty good damage. So right here you have one mythical champion, the only mythical champion that is accessible to the player base as a fusion, of course, if you manage to collect the champions. And you do have some very impressive results, 2.6 billion damage. But this leaves you miles and miles and miles away from the 92 billion damage that we're seeing there. Then we have this one, for example, on Nightmare. A lot of people say Razelvark sucks, Skratch. Razelvark cannot deal damage. Why have you even made a video on him to show that he can do damage? Well, I don't have mine at with 6-star Crushing Grand, but check this Bugs Bunny out. 800 million damage, guys. Just crazy, crazy damage. And then you see Mother Sibel in there with 370 million because she's on a curse set, you know? So you have some crazy teams that are able to put in big damage. Now, the problem with all of these broken teams that I just showed you, this one right here, this one right here, this one right here, this one right here, is that kills overall the spirit for people that are looking to create new teams, new strategies, and bring in hidden gems like these ones on the board, okay? And I do think that Plarium needs to kind of like take that control back and start adjusting some of the things that are working wrong. Now, I think Yannicka and Wixwell should definitely stay in game as it is. I think being able to do 2, 3, 4 billion damage with Yannicka and Wixwell as a good strategy is something that, yes, is nice, is good to have in the game, and it is more accessible to other players that are able to build this and use it. It's not a very fun team to use. It's a lot of RNG, and let's just say on a bad day you can deal 1+ billion damage, and that's still very, very good. Now, the team with Acelin and Ironclad, I think is a bit, even though I don't think it's a bug, I just think it's a bit silly to have a champion that can heal for this much without having a cap. And these are things that they kind of like supposed to look at from the beginning and be like, well, you know what? We have that rare champion in the game that everybody forgets about, and he could potentially do some stupid things. Right now, if they come and fix this, people will jump on them and call it like, why they're nerfing stuff, etc. You know, I do think that is a bit hardcore on the way this works. But I do want to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Maybe you guys think a bit different. You have a different opinion than me, you know. So I still want to hear your thoughts on what do you think about Acelin and Ironclad. What do you think about Ronda? What do you think about Yannicka and Wixwell? Corpulent Cadaver is history. We did have a Madman that was nerfed in the past, who does a very similar thing with Ronda. Now, I'll be very honest with you guys. I ran that team quite a few times and was very, very hard to really get a lot of value out of here. The main thing was from the A1. It basically interacts, it used to interact with the Hydra Heads in the exact same way Ronda interacts with her A2, you know. So they quickly fixed this, even though this is another champion that was very hard capped by what he can do, because you require to decapitate all of the heads with somebody else in order for him to really bring in damage. And even like that, you are not able to deal billions and billions and tens of billions of damage with him no matter what, you know. Recently, we had a different thing. So we have this champion from the Ogran tribes, Togran, who can basically buff spread with a basic skill. Now, there was a bug with this one. This was 100% a bug. He was able to buff spread the shield that you were putting in with the blood shield accessory. The main thing with that was that at the same time, he was just increasing the value of the shield like to a disgusting amount, making Yannicka to deal stupid damage. Like with this team, you were able to do 20, 30 plus billion damage. But this was 100% a bug with Togron, you know, which they fixed. So there are tons of different things happening. The new mythical champion, the chicken, the rooster, he was fixed as well. But this was again another bug, similar with what we had with Geomancer, if you guys remember, because they have pretty much the same thing. They forgot to put a cap on the enemy max HP. Very curious to see how they are going to kind of like work on all of the changes. Very curious to see if they are going to fix the Acelin and Ironclad, even though I'll be very honest with you guys, that team cannot exceed a specific amount of damage no matter what you're doing to it. I'm not sure if Ironclad will have a hard cap on his damage, similar with Yannicka. I doubt it. So probably they will definitely fix this team in the near future. But kind of like to make you aware, probably if you don't have the resources to invest in it, don't jump quick to do it. If, of course, you got lucky enough to be able to summon an Acelin the Stalwart, you know. I feel like an easy fix for this bad boy is put a cap in the exact same way they've put a cap on the damage he can deal with the shield. The reason why they've done this cap is to ensure that he's not going to be able to do what Ironclad does. But they forgot that Ironclad exists. I can guarantee you that, you know. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of like point out a bit this mess, and I want to hear your opinion on it as well, guys. You know, like, well, a lot of us have been playing the game for a long time. We've seen a lot of crazy things happening in the game. Some things, they definitely kind of like break a bit the whole interaction with the game, the champion, the way they deal damage. So yeah, that was all for the video. Much love. Appreciate every single one of you guys watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.